If you get knocked down, you stand up and you try again. You might try differently. When you're facing terrain like that, you just do it. You look at the mountain in front of you and you begin to climb. You don't judge it. If you judge it, then you're playing the referee and the game's down the field, right? You can cry foul, but you won't be in the game. And you have to find the way to your ambition, and you have to allow yourself to do more than one thing. Who says that we should make a decision when we're 20 and that's what we should be doing when we're 50, right? This book is about friendship and survival and betrayal. It's about standing up when they pass you by and saying, I won't quit, when they want you to quit. But it's also about how some of those women become very much like the monsters they worked for. Fiction is the lie through which we tell the truth.
Welcome to Open Book. I am your host, Anthony Scaramucci. Very happy to be joined by Elaine Goldsmith-Thomas. The title of the book is Climbing in Heels. And this is a novel. And Elaine, of course, is a Hollywood agent. She's turned producer and now author. But man, is this a great book. You know what? This is my era. This is the problem with this book. This is my era. Elaine, it's good to have you on. Before we get into the book, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you make your way to Hollywood and writing and all this fun stuff that you're doing?
Oh gosh, I think I've always been a writer. And there's no straight line in careers. I think the secret to any career, Anthony, you would probably back this up, is the ability to pivot, to go one way and then go, oh fuck, that's not working. Oops, sorry, I don't know. Am I allowed to say that? And turn around and find another way.
You're on Anthony Scaramucci's podcast. You're allowed to curse.
There you go. Thank you.
That's what we do.
Well, in that case, yes.
Right.
I was born in LA. I was born in the San Fernando Valley. I was born in Pacoima. My mother called it Arleta. Then we moved to Sepulveda, and my mother called it Northridge. I never really knew where I lived. I just knew it wasn't good enough for my mother. But I also knew that image was more important than truth. And I watched how she sort of nudged our reality to become her truth, or her truth to become our reality, right? So um, I, I think my ambition was, she was both my fuel and my kryptonite. And I think that, all she wanted was to live closer to Ventura Boulevard. That was the great divide between, it was like the hills and the hills not. If you lived in the hills, man, you were something. If you didn't, you lived where the housekeepers lived. We lived where the housekeepers lived. So, my path to Hollywood was I didn't even want to get to Hollywood. I just wanted to live in the hills. Probably something like that. Anyway, I went to school. I helped, much like one of the characters in my book, I helped a boy I was deeply enamored with. I helped him get an agent. I realized there was no science to it, that people put their fingers in their mouths to see which way the wind was blowing. And I understood that passion speaks. And I was passionate. I was passionate to get the yes. So I worked a whole summer before going to college to get him an agent, and I finally did. And he ended up getting little roles for a while. I thought he was going to be, chiseled into the Mount Rushmore of Hollywood. And then he dumped me. But I never forgot how good it felt to get the yes. And when I graduated college, I remembered how good it felt. My dad was a salesman who taught me that you have to really believe in what you're selling. And then you have to connect. You have to figure out a way in. And I guess the ambition of my mother and the drive and tenacity of my father formed and informed me. So there you go.
Hey, listen, you know what? I love the honesty in the story. We're all driven by different things, our emotions, our connections to our families, and what we idealize our lives to be, right? So I love the honesty in your story. Let's talk about this fictional story. The story is set in the 1980s agency world. Okay, so there was no misogyny in that world. There was no male chauvinism in that world, of course, right, Elaine?
As I like to say, there's a lot of blow and blow jobs, and you can't judge these women. I don't even know if you can judge the men through the prism of 2025. It was the world. People say to me, "How did you do it?" And when you're facing terrain like that, you just do it. You look at the mountain in front of you and you begin to climb. You don't judge it. If you judge it, then you're playing the referee in the games down the field, right? You can cry foul, but you won't be in the game. And the characters in my book wanted to be in the game, and I wanted to be in the game. So, and the terrain that I was faced with was, yeah, incredibly misogynistic. Some of the guys, not all of them, they called it was, you wanted to be a sexy Terry if you could. But if your wiggle was more waddle, or you were too loud or too smart or too ambitious, you had to figure another way to get that job. As one of the characters in my book had to figure out a way in, because there was the three women that really are at the center of this book, there's no straight line for them. So they had to leverage every opportunity, metaphorically, in heels.
Okay, so there's Beanie, Mercedes, and Ella. Those are the three women. Who is
Yeah.
Elaine the most like? Are you the most like Ella?
Oh, thank you. No, I am probably Beanie. I am probably most like Beanie. I mean, I guess they're all a little bit like me and not, but Beanie is closest to me because Beanie was also born in the Valley. Beanie um, was driven, all three of these women were sort of shaped by their mothers. Beanie wanted to please her mother. Ella was repelled by her mother, who was an ex-debutante, who believed that separate was equal. And Mercedes sort of became her mother. In other words, she leveraged every opportunity trying to find a rich man to protect her. And each one of them, the shadow and echo of their mother informed their trajectory. I probably was like Beanie. Though her path wasn't mine. Um, Beanie did work for a misogynist. Beanie was introduced to cocaine, and a lot of porn, and and she worked for a guy who very much did not want her to succeed. She knew too much. She was too smart. So while that wasn't me, it was a lot of people that I knew. And so I sort of, the ability, fiction, gosh, I posted something on my Instagram the other day. I can't remember the quote now. It was something that through fiction, you're able to tell the truth. I'm going to find that quote because it was such an amazing quote. Fiction allows you to turn left, right? The quote is Camus, and it's fiction is the lie through which we tell the truth. And I think it allowed me the ability to tell people what it was like in the 80s, especially for women who weren't the Angie Dickinson in the Rat Pack. They weren't one of the guys that they could hang out with that didn't threaten them. And it also allowed me to turn left and invent things. And there are a lot of facts in the book and a lot of fiction.
All right, it's summer, and let's be honest, there's nothing worse than tossing and turning in a hot room, sweating through the sheets like you're on a bad cable news hit. I've had those nights, and they can be miserable, which is why Cozy Earth's bamboo viscose sheets are a game changer. These sheets are temperature regulating, incredibly breathable, and they help you sleep several degrees cooler. I'm telling you, the first night I slept like a baby. No heat, no humidity, just cool comfort. Cozy Earth even gives you a 100-night sleep trial. So try it during the hottest stretch of the year. If you're not in love, send it back. But trust me, you won't. Upgrade your summer. Go to CozyEarth.com and use code OPENBOOK for 40% off best-selling temperature-regulating sheets, apparel, and more. Trust me, you'll feel the difference the very first night. Sleep cooler, lounge lighter, stay cozy. I find that fiction is probably the best pathway into understanding humans because of what you just said. You've got the license now because it's fiction to tell the truth in the story. And so when you're
Well said,
climbing in
Anthony. Well said.
heels,
Hmm.
but I think it is, and that's the reason why I love fiction. I learned so much from fiction. Think of William Shakespeare, how much he teaches us about human behavior. But I want to
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
climbing in heels for a second because I think your life is that, right? You climbed in heels, and you took the obstacles in front of you without victimhood. Even if you were being victimized, you shed the idea of victimology, and you just kept going. And I think the message is something that should resonate today. How should that message resonate today in 2025?
Well, it seems to be resonating. They're calling it the beach read of the summer. People are young. What's interesting is young women are reading and going, wow, the 80s seem great. And
Right, right.
yeah, I guess so. And people who are older are reading it and wryly smiling. I mean, yeah, again, it's that metaphor. You can play the referee, you can say foul, but you're missing the game. So you kind of have to look at whatever obstacle is in front of you. This is how I would translate it for now.
Well,
And I would
so
say, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I want you to react to this. Okay, so I live in Manhasset. This is a suburban town, and every woman in this town watches Yellowstone or did watch Yellowstone. And because there's macho alpha men kicking the shit out of each other in Yellowstone, and there seems to be a shortage of that sort of electricity in our society now. We seem like we have muted those people. So I feel like people that are reading your book and watching Yellowstone, there's something there to that. What is that? Am I missing something? Is there something there sociologically?
Well, it's so interesting that you called Yellowstone that. When I think of Yellowstone, I think of that character who's Costner's daughter, who's kick-ass. I mean, you can't kill her. She's the Terminator. You
Right.
know, they run her over, they
Mm-hmm.
burn her up, they blow her up. She just doesn't
Mm-hmm.
die, and she keeps going, and she keeps smarting and outsmarting them. So when you say Yellowstone, I think, yeah, there's sexy men in there, but there's this kick-ass woman in there. Um, I guess, yeah.
Well,
I mean, I think
I
that the
think there's
people,
both. I think there's something for everybody in there. That's your book, isn't it?
that is my book. My book is about navigating the waves on a beach and understanding that if you get knocked down, you stand up and you try again. You might try differently. You might wear a life preserver. You might try differently, but it's about life is really about the climb. It's, for those who haven't read it, I don't want to ruin the ending, but it really is the ascent rather than the destination. All of those cliches. And these women in the book um, are strategic, and they have to be. I think we all have to be a little strategic when we're faced with the unexpected daily kind of eruptions of life, right, Anthony? I mean, I look at you and your career, and you have an interesting, amazing career that you couldn't have planned, right? My mentor, a woman named Sue Mangers, said to me years ago. I mean, she's sort of the model for Sheila Day in my book, one of the most powerful agents in the world. And she would say, honey, my career wasn't planned, it just happened. And I think much of life is about embracing what's happening and the reactions we have to it. Um, because none of us could have predicted the trajectory. But if you have the desire, like the women in my book do, to leave their footprint in heels, then go for it. Because here's the truth. The only thing stopping you is you. If Anthony, if you want to write a book, if you want to write a screenplay, if you want to become an actor, do it. The only thing stopping you is you. And it took me a long time to understand that. I was a top agent in the 90s. I was a big time agent. I represented a lot of movie stars, a lot of women, Julia Roberts and Jennifer Lopez and Madonna and Susan Sarandon, a lot of, and men, Spike Lee, Tim Robbins. And I, I, and Nicolas Cage, I was good at it, but it wasn't all I was good at. I was a writer and I was afraid to tell people, especially my clients, that that's what I wanted to do as well, even though being a storyteller made me a better agent. And you have to find the way to your ambition, and you have to allow yourself to do more than one thing. Who says that we should make a decision when we're 20 and that's what we should be doing when we're 50, right? I think you're finding your way to your multifaceted career, Anthony, and I think it makes you more interesting. It makes your path more interesting.
I wanted to be in Hollywood, Elaine.
You
I didn't
did
have the
so
balls,
come to
Elaine.
Hollywood. Just come to
Yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah,
You're not
I didn't
dead.
have the balls. Yeah, but no, but I just want you to know that when I was a kid, that's what I wanted. But I was anxious about money, so I went to Wall Street. You know why I went to Wall Street, Elaine? Because that's where the money was. It's like Willie Sutton with the banks, right? I knew if I just had a middling career on Wall Street, I would be rich enough to take care of my parents. That's literally the simplicity of the thought process of my career.
But play the record out, Anthony. Okay? You're not dead. You're a thriving, huge, well-spoken personality who's done
Will you
so
be my
many
agent?
things.
You'll be my agent. Help me
We
get some roles.
what? Oh, you wanted to act? Is that what you wanted to do?
Yeah, of
When
course. Yeah, I wanted to be a James Bond villain or something like
Oh,
that.
oh, oh.
Yeah,
See,
yeah, of course.
you could have taken the path. You could have taken the path to Hollywood after you made money and took care of your parents. You could have moved them out west, like in your parallel universe. You move them out west. You've got money, so you can bankroll a movie. Then you could have done your own movie and starred in it.
Right. Well, that's why I got my son. I bankrolled my son in his movie. That was the key for him. He said he got his first short film in Tribeca. You write at the
Good for
beginning of this
him.
book. You're pulling a quote, and when I read your book, I was like, oh my god, this woman. I mean, I don't know you, but you make us like fall in love with you because I'm going to read this
Oh,
quote. I want you to react to this quote. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Beware that when fighting monsters, you yourself do not become a monster, Elaine. For when you gaze long into the abyss gazes also into you. Now, that's Friedrich
yeah,
Nietzsche. And of course, I read that in the mid
yeah,
80s. And Oliver
yeah.
Stone put that on Wall Street One, by the way. I don't know if you remember that. That was in the screenplay.
No,
That was Michael
no.
Douglas said that he won the Academy Award. He said you got to be careful when you're staring into that abyss. You could become that. Okay, and I've lived my life. If you took that and you took Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and you put both of those in the fly machine that we put Jeff Goldblum in the 1980s, you fuse those two ideas. I didn't want to be Jacob Marley. I wanted to be the reformed Ebenezer Scrooge, charitable. And I didn't want to stare into the abyss of the greed on Wall Street and become that. And you did that in Hollywood. Okay, so how did you do it, Elaine?
Yeah. Well,
By the way, that's a
listen.
huge
Uh,
compliment, by the way. And I mean that because
Thank you.
I mean that. You've done that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you
Thank
deserve
you.
credit
Thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you. What I like to say is, look, this book is about friendship and survival and betrayal. It's about standing up when they pass you by and saying, I won't quit when they want you to quit. But it's also about how some of those women become very much like the monsters they worked for. And I think it's about forgiving them a bit. Um, You hope you're not monstrous. You hope you can be better than the generation that came before. And if you are, you have to correct. I think that life changed with Me Too. I think that they shined a giant light on the outrageousness um, that was allowed um, in the Hollywood that you wanted to go to. It was outrageous, Anthony. It was, Harvey Weinstein wasn't the exception. He was the rule. How did he
Mm-hmm.
exist? There were
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of him. He just kept going and and continued. And somebody was smart enough, and I certainly applaud Ronan Farrow um, for shining a light on it. So now I think there is a big
Mm-hmm.
the entire world is watching itself. Um, I'm not talking even about
Mm-hmm.
the outward monstrous behavior. I'm talking about the monsters inside, the entitled narcissists who are desperate to hang on to their power and their youth.
Okay, so when I close the book and I look up and say, okay, what did I learn from the book? I learned that you can keep your integrity and you can climb in your heels and step over and around things and dodge and weave and have a successful career. It's not a perfect career. No one's career is, but you can survive if you keep your compass together. Is that what I got out of the book?
I like that you got that out of
Was
the
it?
book, and I like that you forgave the women because I don't know that they always make the right moral choices or by other people's standards, but they did by their own
Oh, but the
compass.
men make all the moral choices, Elaine.
Well, look, some of the men were quite decent in the book, and
Yeah, exactly. But I was just saying that you think the men don't exactly.
yeah, I think that I here's what I would say. Yes, do the very best you can with the terrain that's in front of you, and 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 enjoy the climb. I think as you close the book, Anthony, what you recognized is, especially with Beanie, she had summited, right? And sometimes sometimes as
Mm-hmm.
you look back, when people say they miss the hungry years, it's the climb, it's the people you meet along the way. Take note of them. But more than anything, I guess if I want people to take anything away from the book, I think I think they're going to enjoy the read. It seems to be the beach read of the summer. People are loving it. Um, and taking a page from my book, it's never too late, Anthony. You want to go to Hollywood,
All
go to
right,
Hollywood.
I look at. I've got a lot of skin
It's a
products going. You're
beautiful face. It's and
trying to stay moisturized, Elaine.
you took
Trying to
care
stay
of you took
moisturized.
care of your parents, you financed your son. Now it's your turn. See, and that's what I think.
All right, I hear you.
I think these women found the way to the careers they wanted, and they weren't always planned, right? And that's what climbing in heels is about. I mean, they're saying it's little valley of the dolls. It's a little steamy. Did you find it steamy, Anthony?
Loved it. I loved it. Let me tell you something. Okay, everything about it is inside the dark channel in our minds, right? I mean, come on. We are all a little like this, whether we want to admit it to ourselves or not.
Thank you.
Even the most Puritan are a little like this. All right, so listen, I'm going to change this up on my producers. What I usually do is I end the interview with 5 words. And then what I ask the author to do is I'm going to say the word and you respond to it in a sentence or two. Okay, but I'm going with 10 this time because I think this is so interesting. And some of them are people. And so you don't have to get too detailed. I'm going to say the person's name. You give me a sentence. Okay, you ready?
Yes, sir.
What are you going to say? I say Jennifer Lopez. You say what?
Jennifer Lopez, I would say, um, limitless. I mean, if anybody inspired
Mm-hmm.
me, Anthony, it was Jennifer. She
Yeah.
encouraged me to not be afraid. I've been writing under pseudonyms, and I'd been writing uncredited for years, Anthony. And I was too afraid to stand in my truth as a writer. I thought people would judge me or they wouldn't want to work with me as a producer. I was afraid. So she was the one who said, stand in your truth. This was a dancer who became a singer, a dancer who became an actor, who became a singer, who became an international brand. And she empowered me to do it as well. There's a lot of actors who want to sort of hold their fame to their own chest. And she said, you've got to live your dream. That's who she is. So I'm her producing partner. Right?
I don't know if you caught what I don't know if you caught what I said. I don't know her. I've never met her. She seems incredibly likable. And somebody like me, growing up the way I grew up, identifies with her. I have a soft spot for her.
Yeah, no, I did hear that.
That's just me looking at her from a distance.
You know, it's funny. I don't know how many actors, she's my producing partner, would have said, look, you go off on your book tour. You know, you do you, who would have held me on her shoulders the way she did. I think that's quite extraordinary. I do. Knowing actors like I do.
So let's go to these last.
Okay.
Let's go to these last couple. I'm going to have you repeat a few if you don't mind. Okay. I want to start again with Beanie Rosen.
I'd say Beanie has survived her mother, her father, a misogynistic industry, and found her way to her ambition. She is a survivor.
Mercedes Baxter.
Mercedes learned from her mother, who she thought was her sister, how to leverage opportunities to find a safe harbor, and ended up doing that.
Ella Gaddy.
Ella Gaddy was so busy fighting tradition, wanting to find her own way and her own voice, and really believed rules were for sheep, and she never wanted to join a flock, so she started her own.
Okay, this is the last one. I'm going to give you the final word. Elaine Goldsmith Thomas.
A work in progress.
The best days are to come, Elaine? The
best days are to come. The better
days are ahead?
Yes. Here's what I want to leave you with, Anthony, if you can hear me. We don't only live once. We live every day. We die once. So every single day is a second chance to go to Hollywood, Anthony, to make your dreams come true. The best days are right now.
Yeah.
Now, when you fly to London tonight, remember that.
I'm going to come talk to you about. You're going to be my career coach. You're going to be my career coach.
You got it. You got it.
The title of the book is "Climbing in Heels," a novel. It is a phenomenal beach read. There's so much going on in the book, but it's also allegories about human behavior and understanding the different channels in our minds. And I really tell you, I love the book. And I wish you great success with it. And I'm sure you're going to get a TV deal out of this book and other things. It's just that good.
Oh, Anthony, thank you. Let me just add this. We have a TV deal. I'm writing it with Darren. I'm writing it with Darren Starr. We sold it. We have 10 episodes on the air on Peacock already. So there you go. Maybe that's your acting role.
I gotta check it out. But you say it's 10 episodes. You haven't debuted it yet. You're in the process of
we're writing it.
Writing it. Okay, good. Yeah, well, there you go. I can play. Trust me. I can play a misogynist chauvinist from the 80s.
There you go. Me. Okay.
I lived there. I've been there. Okay, just something to keep in mind.
I see it now.
You know, John Hamm. John Hamm, that big, tall, handsome son of a bitch, is unavailable. Okay, you need some Tom Cruise size actors. I'm your guy.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. Lots of love.
What I think killed JFK, you want to hear my theory? If you look in the 60s, who we thought killed JFK, it was the height of the Cold War. So our great enemies at the time, it must have been the Russians, it must have been the Cubans. If you look in the 70s, as Watergate breaks, mistrust for the government reaches all-time highs because of Richard Nixon. Guess who we start blaming the Kennedy assassination on? We say it's an inside job. The government did it themselves. The CIA did it. LBJ did it. In the 80s, the Godfather movies peak. Guess who killed JFK? It was the mob. So decade by decade, if you want to know who killed JFK, it's whoever America's most afraid of at that moment in time. And JFK has always been that to us. It's always been a mirror, as all conspiracies are, that show us what we're most afraid of. So I know Lee Harvey Oswald took that shot. Do I know whether he was funded or what he was doing in Russia all those years? The sad truth is, anyone who tells you what happened doesn't know, because Jack Ruby pulled the trigger on Lee Harvey Oswald. And the moment Jack Ruby did that, he denied us the answer.
Joining us now on Open Book is Brad Meltzer. He's a #1 New York Times best-selling author, so many different great books, but the latest book, The JFK Conspiracy, The Secret Plot to Kill Kennedy, and the greatest tagline ever, and why it failed. Of course, we know Kennedy is killed by an assassin's bullet, but this is a totally different plot. And first of all, it's an honor to have you on, so thank you for joining us. But before we get into it, tell us about Brad Meltzer. How did you become a writer? Why did you become a writer? And
First of all, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And we've been talking off air how much I appreciate, from Muhammad Ali to Superman, all our same heroes. But I started, I was the first in my immediate family to go to a 4-year college. I never thought I'd be a writer. And when I graduated college, the job I went to work at just didn't pan out. The guy who was running it wound up leaving the job. He was going to be my mentor, and I thought I wrecked my life. So I did what everyone would do. Anthony, what I know you would do in a moment where you think you wrecked your life, I said, I'm going to write a novel.
Hey everyone, it's Anthony Scaramucci here with some straight talk. Let me tell you, we've got 85% of our viewers who haven't hit the subscribe button yet. What's up with that? It hurts. Listen, I made my career by going all in. Right now, only 15% of our viewers are part of our subscribed family. So please take action. This helps us book more amazing guests. Hit subscribe, join our community, and let's turn these numbers upside down. Now back to the show.
And I didn't know what I was doing, but I just thought everyone has one story in them. So I wrote my first novel. My first novel got me 24 rejection letters. There were only 20 publishers at the time, and I got 24 rejection letters, which means some people were writing me twice to make sure I got the point. But I fell in love with the process, and I said, if they don't like that book, I'm going to write another, and if they don't like that book, I'm writing another. And this week after I got my 23rd and 24th rejection letter, I started my second book, and that was the one that sold. And so I'll be the first to say I got lucky.
But you got some big fans, though. You got some presidents that are fans, right? I mean, I think if I remember correctly, you got George Herbert Walker Bush. Bush 1 as a big fan of yours. You've spoken at his library. I think he handed you the secret letter that he left for Bill Clinton. Am I right about all this?
Yeah, he did. He gave it to me. In fact, so yeah, Bush 41, 43, I know well. Clinton himself, they listen, I'm so thankful I've gotten to, I've met every president since 41 up. But 41 and I had a really amazing relationship. In fact, I couldn't even tell this story until a few years ago. But when he was dying, what no one knew and we couldn't say at the time was they were bringing his favorite writers to come in and read to him on basically his deathbed. And I got the call. And I was in Kennebunkport, Maine. I went down there to the compound, and my wife and I are there. The Secret Service say to me, listen, Brad, he's sleeping a lot right now. He's going to fall asleep 5 minutes in because he's sleeping most of the day at this point. So just read to him for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and say goodbye. I said, you got it. Honored to be here. Secret Service leave. It's just myself, my wife, President Bush, and his service dog, Sully. And I can see he has a stack of books on his desk. And one of them is my book, The First Conspiracy, a nonfiction book about a secret plot to kill George Washington. And he and President Clinton have both given me really beautiful blurbs in it. They had early copies of it. But this one looks like it's been read, I can't tell you how many times. It's dog-eared. And I say, sir, you want to read this one? He goes, because he can't speak anymore. He just says, or And sure enough, I start reading. And 5 minutes in, he falls asleep. And I'm like, I'm just going to finish this chapter. And the chapter I brought to read him was the moment where George Washington, for the very first time, has the Declaration of Independence read to his troops for the first time. And so I get to those words, Anthony, those words we all know. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And in that moment, President Bush's eyes pop open and he's just locked on me, wide awake. And I get to the end of the chapter. I'm like, you want to read another chapter, sir? He goes, mm-hmm. I get to the end of that one. You want to read another, sir? Mm-hmm. And another? Mm-hmm. And instead of being there for 5 or 10 minutes, I'm there for an hour. I say goodbye to him. I know I'm never going to see him again. And, you know, it was one of the most humbling moments of my life to read about the very first president who at that point, who was the oldest living president of these United States. So I still don't know how I've been lucky enough to kind of stumble into things like that.
Well, I'm glad you told us. I did not know that story. I knew the story about your closeness to the president, and I'm honored that you told that story on my podcast. Thank you. I want to go to an abrupt transition, though. So somebody that's a little bit more sinister. Bush 1, I've had the chance to meet with him. Of course, I worked for Bush 2, and I thought he was one of the greatest living Americans in so many different ways. World War II decorated and so forth. And it was sad when he passed. Richard Pavlik. Who is Richard Pavlik? And why is he overlooked by history, other than by Brad Meltzer, frankly? I did not know until I opened your book and started it. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, right? We all, you know, so this is the book I wrote, the new nonfiction book called The JFK Conspiracy, about a secret plot to kill Kennedy that really happened at the start of his presidency. And we all know the one from Lee Harvey Oswald that eventually kills him, but there was a plot in 1960, just after Kennedy's elected, in December. He goes down, this assassin named Richard Pavlik is a disgruntled postal worker, and he puts 7 sticks of dynamite in his car. He goes to and follows Kennedy to Palm Beach, Florida, because he thinks that Kennedy's Secret Service protection is less there, which he's right about. And he knows every day, every Sunday, that Kennedy goes to a 10 a.m. church service. And so he sits outside his place right before 10 a.m. Sure enough, JFK is right on time. JFK comes out to his car. All Pavlik has to do, this assassin has to do, is hit the gas on the car, hit the little trigger mechanism he's built, and truly, Anthony, boom, will go the dynamite. And I won't ruin the ending. I think I just ruined chapter 1 of the JFK conspiracy, but that's chapter 1. But what saves his life in that moment, what saves JFK, is one of the most crazy JFK stories you've never heard in your life. And it all really happened. And the reason you don't know the story, because I was like, how does no one know this story? It was a huge story in Florida where it happened. It was about to go nationwide. And the day it was going to go nationwide, there were 2 airplanes that crashed over New York City. And when they crashed, everyone died on board, both planes, except for one boy. This one young boy is a sole survivor. And America becomes obsessed with this kid. And all the attention swerves to this kid. And so Richard Pavlik's story with JFK and trying to kill him becomes a footnote to history until Josh mentioned I, my co-writer, decided to write the JFK conspiracy. And then obviously we started telling the full story about it.
No, it's interesting. You know, Farrah Fawcett died on the same day as Michael Jackson. And of course, we remember her fondly, but it was her death was eclipsed by his. And this stuff happens. It's right as a media Bigfoot, as we say, right? But what talk about the First Lady for a second, because you guys write beautifully about the First Lady, you and Josh. Take us through her influence. What surprised you most about Jacqueline Bouvier, a fellow Long Islander of mine? Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy.
So here's the thing: is we've turned the Kennedys. We know them as like the perfect husband, the perfect wife, the perfect hair, the perfect teeth. She's got perfect style, and they got the compounds, and it's a cliche. We turn them into a cliche, and they're far more complex than that. And what stole the show when we were writing the JFK conspiracy, what stole the show was Jackie Kennedy. And I didn't know much about her. Again, I just knew her as like the most beautiful first lady who redoes the White House and just has all the charm and everyone loves her. And she's so amazing. And because you see what she has to go through. Because JFK, we start the book with his World War II heroics. He's this amazing war hero. He hits a PT-109, a Japanese destroyer, like blows his boat to bits. And he puts a member of his, one of the other sailors on his back, swims for miles with this unconscious guy on his back. And it's JFK's awesome, amazing hero. In fact, when he gets his honors and gets honored as a hero, he can leave World War II. And his father's like, "You're done, son. Let's take it home. You won. You survived. Let's go." And JFK's like, "No, I'm not done. I'm not having my dad make an excuse for me. I'm going to go and actually fight and do more good. And so you're like, this guy's the greatest guy in the world. And then he marries Jackie. And when they're engaged, one of JFK's closest friends goes up to Jackie and says, Jack likes women. Loves, and basically says to Jackie's face, he's going to sleep around on you. And I won't ruin it. You'll see all the affairs that we talk about in the book. But Jackie has to deal with this guy who, is JFK the greatest, amazing war hero who gives us idealism and takes us to the moon? Or is he this terribly reckless husband who, when she gives birth, he's not there. She hemorrhages, he's not there. She's dealing with the christening and all the stuff by herself, has to go to the White House by herself. Is he good? Is he bad? Is he a little bit like all of us, a little bit of both? And Jackie is the one who just struck me as she's the one holding the ship together.
Man, it's beautifully written, and also she also protects him. Honestly, she protects some of the philandry by presenting herself and her family as something that they're not, which is
not only that. No, you're exactly right. In fact, the greatest thing she does to protect him is, we start the book, obviously, and the whole book is about the secret plot to kill JFK that you've never heard of, but we end the book with the real actual assassination of JFK. You get to see it, but you see it from Jackie's perspective.
Was that a lone gunman that killed JFK?
Depends who you want to talk to. Let's talk about that in the next question, because we should talk about that. So we do the whole ending, we do the whole finale of, you see it from Jackie's perspective. And I kept, when I was researching the book, I'm like, where's Camelot? When does Camelot enter the picture here? Everyone associates Camelot with JFK and the Kennedy administration. And what I finally realized and figured out is it doesn't enter while he's alive. It's after he dies. When his brains get splattered all over his wife's beautiful purple dress, it's a disaster, obviously, affects the whole country. And everyone wants an interview with Jackie. And she's not granted an interview with anyone. And she finally says to Life magazine, I'll give you one interview for their special JFK death issue. And this reporter comes to her house late at night. Reporter shows up at like 8 o'clock. He's there till after midnight. She's rewriting the reporting with him. And she tells a story, exclusive story to him, that when JFK was in pain, when his back was bothering him, he would sit up in the White House, and when he couldn't fall asleep, Jackie was the one who would go and put this record on, the one record that she knew brought him peace, this song, this play about a place called Camelot. And Jackie, at the start of her career, was a reporter. She used to ask questions on the street. So she was a member of the press. She was hounded by the press. She was mortified by the press. She was, chased by the press. But make no mistake, Anthony, she was a master of the press. And she's the one who inserts the word Camelot into the lexicon. And that's why we think about it today. It is a conscious choice by her to rewrite immediately the legacy and make sure that legacy is the way she wants it, rather than anyone else having a say in it. And it's incredible what she does.
This is the very famous writer, Theodore White, who wrote the book The Making of the President in 1960. He interviews Mrs. Kennedy after the assassination. She falls into the arms of Aristotle Onassis a couple of years later because she's looking for protection. She's looking for help because of the limelight that she's in and the threats to her family. It's quite a compelling story. Was he killed by Lee Harvey Oswald?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So here's my take. So I know the guy who's read every single page that's been released from the archives. I sit on the board of the National Archives, I'm proud to say, and it is amazing to look at it. And the sad truth is, anyone who tells you what happened doesn't know, because Jack Ruby pulled the trigger on Lee Harvey Oswald. And the moment Jack Ruby did that, he denied us the answer. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. I remember I was obsessed with the case because people would tell me, I saw in the JFK movie, Oliver Stone's movie, it'd say, no one since that day, they've tried to recreate Lee Harvey Oswald's shot from the book Depository. No one has been able to recreate it. And I was like, oh my gosh, no one can create that shot. It must have been someone else. It's a 1 in a million shot. Except that's not true. That shot's been recreated dozens of times by Marines. In fact, good Marine sharpshooters have to shoot from that distance regularly. And why did Oliver Stone do that? He said he purposely put misinformation in his movie about JFK to offset the misinformation that he used to see in the Warren Commission. So my answer is, don't get your history from Hollywood movies. As for what I think killed JFK, you want to hear my theory? So if you look in the 60s, who we thought killed JFK, it was the height of the Cold War. So our great enemies at the time, it must have been the Russians, it must have been the Cubans. If you look in the 70s, as Watergate breaks, mistrust for the government reaches all-time highs because of Richard Nixon. Guess who we start blaming the Kennedy assassination on? We say it's an inside job. The government did it themselves. The CIA did it. LBJ did it. In the 80s, the Godfather movies peak. Guess who killed JFK? It was the mob. So decade by decade, if you want to know who killed JFK, it's whoever America's most afraid of at that moment in time. And JFK has always been that to us. It's always been a mirror, as all conspiracies are, that show us what we're most afraid of. So I know Lee Harvey Oswald took that shot. Do I know whether he was funded or what he was doing in Russia all those years before, during the Cold War? Those answers are lost to us, and the ones I'm still chasing.
But you think he shot him?
I know he shot him. No, he definitely shot him. The only question is he being funded by someone else? Is he put up to? But Lee Harvey Oswald took that shot.
So when you look at the Zapruder film and the shot looks like it's coming this way, you think it came in this way?
I mean, when I talk to the Secret Service about it, and anyone who knows about ballistics, when a bullet enters your body, it's magic. It really is. Same thing with knife wounds. Like, why does some person get stabbed and it hits all their organs, and another guy gets stabbed in the same exact spot, hits nothing? So, trying to look at the end result as opposed to where anyone else was or where's the footage. And the one thing I know for sure, this is the one thing I know for sure. People can't keep secrets. They can't keep their mouth shut. Mm-hmm. Deep Throat, the greatest secret, living, walking around, right? The guy who ratted out Richard Nixon, who spoke to Woodward and Bernstein. They were going to take that secret to their grave, and no one can tell them until Deep Throat is dead. You can't say a word to anyone. Ben Bradley at the Washington Post, no one will say anything. And guess who let it out? Deep Throat himself, Mark Felt, because he was like, I'm going to die, and I'm about to die, and I don't want to go to bed. I don't want to go to my deathbed with this secret. And all these years, all this time, you're telling me everyone kept this secret? That's the thing. That's the hardest part about it. So are we going to get the answer? Not from files, not from anything else. And sadly, when Lee Harvey Oswald went down, so many answers went with him. But I will tell you this. Here's the one thing that is important, and we should discuss this. When I was researching the JFK conspiracy, I spoke to, and even before that, I spoke to the Secret Service about people who kill the president. And they're actually divided into two groups. And I looked at them. They study them. They don't just like take it one by one. They've studied what this kind of person is.
You're a mind reader, because I was getting to howlers.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah,
let's talk about howlers and hunters. You're a mind reader.
And that's what they divide them into. The Secret Service says there are two types of people who try to kill the president. There's howlers and there's hunters. And a howler makes a lot of noise. Says, I'm going to kill that guy. I hate that guy. I'm going after him. They're big mouths. But they rarely are the ones who take action. But a hunter is very different. And a hunter is someone who doesn't say a single word. The hunter doesn't say a word to anybody. They're the ones who tend to pull the trigger. And if you look through history, if you look from Abraham Lincoln to the four men who have successfully killed a president, from Abraham Lincoln to JFK, all four of them are hunters. And, when you see, one of the things we talk about in the book is just how much venom. And I know it's titillating for me to come on here and say, hey, let's talk about a secret plot we found to kill JFK no one knows about. But the reason we write this book is not just to tell you the old story, but why does it matter today? And when you look at the 1960 election, it's a time when America, we're bitterly divided between, if you're a Kennedy person or you're a Nixon person. It's the closest election in modern history at the time. Whatever side you're on, you think the other side are horrible, awful people. Does that sound familiar to you, Anthony, right? I mean, it's just exactly where we are now. And when you drudge up that much venom, when you drudge up that much hatred, you can't be surprised when someone gets activated. And in JFK's case, it's this guy, Richard Pavlik, who gets activated and says, you know what, I got to go after this guy. He's a threat to our country. He's a threat, and we got to take him out. And it's no surprise to me what you're seeing with President Trump, the fact that we've seen these two attempts. It's the same thing. It's that same person who thinks that they have to, quote unquote, save the country. And I sadly, whoever was elected, I sadly think you are going to see even more of them. It's just where we are as a culture. It's a terrible part of our culture right now.
So you met President Trump as well?
Of course. Yeah. I know him. My wife worked for his sister.
Okay. And there was an interesting dialogue today with President Trump and President Obama.
I saw that.
So it's interesting, right? These guys can go after each other politically, but at the end of the day, there's a common bond that they're all in a very exclusive club. React to that.
Yeah, when I did a book years ago on what it's like to be an ex-president, I was obsessed with it because I got a letter one day from President Bush. I got another one from President Clinton telling me they liked my books. And I was like, are these, President Bush, who I respect so much, I'm like, is he so bored that he's just writing to me? What's he doing with this time? And I was thinking, like, you're the most strongest, powerful man on the entire planet one day, and the next day you got to stop at red lights like the rest of us. And that plays with your head. It gets in your head. And I said to President Bush, can I come see what your life is like? And I said the same thing to President Clinton when he left office. I said, can I see what your life is like? And when you go to President Clinton's office, every president has like their wall of things, right? We all have our walls behind us of the things that are meaningful to me, whether it's Muhammad Ali or Superman or lightsabers or comic books, whatever it is. And do you know the one picture that is in more of their offices than anything else? They'll have a picture of their kids and whatever, but they don't need to impress anybody anymore.
All five of the presidents together.
That's the only picture. That's the picture that's in Clinton's office, is the five of them when they were together. It's still the ultimate club. And so it doesn't surprise me today. We're talking, of course, right after Jimmy Carter's funeral, that you see there's only a couple people on this planet who understand what you went through. And I remember at the time, President Bush gave me the secret letter that he wrote for President Clinton. And he gave it to me. No one had ever seen it. He never even gave it to his biographer. His biographer was joking with me. He's like, why did he give it to you? Why didn't he give it to me? But whatever and he should have written, I hate you, Clinton. You beat me in my election. You turned me into this one-term president. You did all these things. And instead, he just wrote the most generous, kind, nice, amazing letter saying, our country, we're rooting for you. Barbara and I are rooting for you. And, we're all together now. And that's where, let's be honest, that's where we should be as a culture. We should not be politicizing everything. It does no good. And to me, great leaders are not the ones who pull us apart. They're the ones who pull us together. That's how it's always got to be.
Yeah.
And so I hope that rubs off what happened today.
Listen, he won the election. God bless him. I have my issues with him, which I have
I do too, of course.
I have well articulated. He won the election. I want him to do well.
Sure.
I know I only have a few precious moments with you. I've got 5 words that me and my team put together for these podcasts. We gleaned them from your books and your personality. You respond to the 5 words. I say the word conspiracy. You think what?
Mirror of your fear.
Okay. I say Abraham Lincoln. You think what?
The best. Number 1.
Because
he's the only one. Washington is a great president who of course I think is one of the greatest, and there are others who step up. But I think what Lincoln does is he does something that is not in his interests. That's the hardest thing of all. When it's all go in the pot. And I've written many books about many presidents. Abraham Lincoln is the only one I've written, I think, 3 books about that I still have more information I can still write about, because not just in office, but in life, he's just a kind person. And that's why, I have my beef with presidents who are writing in all caps and triple exclamation points. Like, I'm tired of a culture that's writing in triple exclamation points. Remember when humility used to be a great American value?
We've lost that. I mean,
we lost it. We lost it, but we need to get it back, right?
You were talking about the war heroism of Bush and Kennedy. My uncle Anthony, who I'm named after, was on Normandy Beach. Never talked about it.
Right. Never had to say, look what I did, me.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, Lincoln was that guy who and listen, is he perfect? Of course not. No one's perfect, but he's, to me, if you said who's the best president, Abraham Lincoln wins.
Do you know the origin of April Fools?
It's my birthday.
I do. That's why I'm bringing it up. Do you know the origin?
I used to know it. I've actually forgotten. When you say it, I'm going to go, yeah, that's right.
Well, they changed the calendar. They changed the calendar.
Okay, right, because the months are named differently, right? That's the month that they put in.
the Gregorians changed the calendar.
Right.
And so there was
That's why the months don't match up with the actual things.
Exactly. And so there's a group of people that were celebrating the turn of the year on April 1st because it was more consistent with what the old calendar was. And so the monks said, well, you're celebrating the Happy New Year, the New Year on April 1st, you're a fool. It's April Fool's Day. We're going with January 1st.
That's right. Well,
all right, but that's you're a good Aries. You're obviously a fire sign. Okay, let's keep going. George Washington.
He's the president that is the most famous that we know the least about, and he's fascinating. I've written books about him too. He is savvy. He walks in to the Continental Congress for the first time, and he's the only guy that shows up in a military uniform. He is not stupid. He knows there's going to be a vote that day. And when they're looking for a leader, hey, maybe it should be that guy who's taller than everyone else and wearing the best clothes. And that is some savvy stuff. But here's my favorite Washington story. is George Washington. This is why I love him. We all tell the story that George Washington's the best president, that we held hands and we thought about democracy and we beat the British, the greatest fighting force at that point in time. And that's a nice story, but it's not a true story. In truth, George Washington, in the beginning of the war, we got our butts kicked. He didn't have the experience that the British generals had. And so he gets pinned back to the East River in one of the earliest battles. And it's the moment where George Washington should die. He's got the East River behind him and the British in front of him. He's done. It should be over. And what he does instead is the thing that great leaders should always do, which is improvise. And in the middle of the night, as this fog rolls in, they start commandeering every boat that they can find along the East River, big ones, small ones. And he starts putting all of his men aboard. And he won't get on board until all of his men get aboard. And not just the big important ones, but the lowest ranking ones. And not that this is the moment that saved America. There are plenty before and plenty after. But to me, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. And that's what George Washington does best.
Yeah, and good leaders eat last, right? We know that from the military.
Simon Sinek, that's my buddy.
Yep.
He's the one who said it to me. I just was texting with him.
Jackie Kennedy.
Oh, man. You're picking all the savvy ones. Jackie Kennedy is, I was going to say savvy again, but I use that word, but she is a mastermind. That's the word I'll go back with, for the reason we spoke about, for the way that she put Camelot in there and held this ship together as the waves were going and the lightning's coming down and she's hemorrhaging and this woman is holding this all together with a grace unbeknownst to anyone.
JFK.
Complicated, baby. He is complicated. I mean, it's funny. We did the first conspiracy about the plot to kill George Washington. We did the Lincoln one about the plot to kill Lincoln, the Nazi conspiracy, a plot to kill FDR, Stalin, and Churchill. But this was the one with the hardest ending, because you don't have to deal with Lincoln's death to understand Lincoln, but you can't see JFK without understanding JFK. And so Josh wrote a version, and I was like, that's not the right ending. I wrote a version, like, that's not right. And we kept going back and forth trying to pick it. And we finally, I won't ruin the ending, but like his great inaugural address says, it is filled with hope. It's filled with coming together, but it's filled with that idea that we must begin. And that's what he starts for us. He starts our starting point of that American dream. And I think to this day, for JFK, for some people, he's the birth of that celebrity president. He's the guy who gives us that American dream that's different than previous American dreams, but that American dream that's like, I can attain it in the suburbs and it's mine. And for some, Ronald Reagan stands for that. For some, Barack Obama stands for that. For some, Trump stands for that. Mm-hmm. But all of them are none of them are doing what JFK did and had it together. Like,
it's an interesting job because there's not too much power in that job. This is the weird part about it.
I know,
Kennedy
but no one made it look as good.
Right. It's an interesting job. Listen, I wish Trump well. What's next for you, Brad, before I let you go?
So we do, I have my line of kids' books. We do JFK Conspiracies out now. In our kids' books line, we do an I Am Sally Ride and We Are the Beatles comes next. And then in March, I did the commencement address at the University of Michigan for my son's graduation last year. And it was about making magic and this inspirational book of things you need to make magic in life. And they're doing a book version of that from the parts that went viral. And that comes out in March. So we're doing 3 books in 3 months. And then, Anthony, buddy, I need a nap.
All right, well, take a good long nap. You deserve it. Okay, the title of the book is The JFK Conspiracy, The Secret Plot to Kill Kennedy, and Why It Failed. It's from Brad Meltzer, who's a best-selling author and a great storyteller and a phenomenal guy. And I really appreciate you joining us today on Open Book.
No, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you very much.
Let's do it again, please, sir.
Hello?
All right, you ready to come on the podcast? Or as you say, the cash pot? Come on, you ready?
I'm here.
All right, Ma. All right, Ma. I had an author on that talked about a assassination threat that Kennedy had before he even went into the office of the presidency. I didn't know about it, and it was fun to read about it. But let me ask you this. Where were you? Do you remember where you were when JFK was shot in November of 1963? Do you remember?
Absolutely. I had 2. I had one little kid, and I was home. I was home a lot when I was raising my kids.
You were also
I didn't
pregnant.
go
You were
out
also
much.
pregnant with your favorite child. That would be me, of course.
I was going to say that, but I didn't. I don't know if I should have said. Yes, I was pregnant.
Well,
You were born in
the other two know that
1964.
I'm the favorite, Ma. It's okay at this point.
Stop it.
You know,
It's hurtful. I love everybody.
61 years of data. They know, Ma. They know the pecking order. Okay, all right, but go ahead. Go ahead. Where were you, Ma?
I was in the house. I was pregnant. I had a little boy who was very cute and another one on its way. And I was very excited. And I stayed in a lot because I wanted everything to be perfect for my babies.
Okay, and so you were watching the news, and then that's when you found out you were home watching the news.
Yeah.
Okay.
Watching the news.
And
yes,
what was
and it was a terrible thing the way he did it. No, it was awful.
what was the country like at that time?
It was all in a disarray after he got shot because it was like overwhelming to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't think Trump is at a norm since he's been shot. He doesn't look the same.
Okay, tell me why.
His eye, I studied mental illness quite a bit and people that are in disarray, and his eyes are not himself. He used to have a very sure eye, and now his eye is a little bit fogged out.
Okay.
You have to really study eyes and stuff to really pick it up.
Right. So, I mean, but that type of near-death experience could have had a big impact on his personality, right?
Absolutely. I don't think he's. I think that he's aware that could happen, and it's a very frightening thing. I think it's a very frightening thing that you could have that happen to you. And when it happens, he was very fortunate. It didn't hit his brain. It just nicked his ear, and that's it.
Okay. What did you think of Jackie Kennedy, Ma? Didn't you tell me once that you had the opportunity to meet her?
I
or
saw her. I did.
You ran into her.
in Gucci's store in New York, and
on
she
Fifth
was
Avenue.
Stunning. She had a beautiful gray cashmere pair of pants and sweater, and she was like very subtle and very, very sweet. I was looking at her because I knew it was her, and I didn't know how to approach her. I was on the young side then, and she approached me, and I thought she was a very nice person. Very, very nice.
Yeah, so you
she had a regalness to her.
She was remarried at that time? She was a widow at that time or remarried to...
She was a widow.
Okay, so that was before she got remarried to Aristotle Onassis.
Yes,
okay,
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But she had, her hairstyle was her symbol, and she was dressed very elegant, and she was very nice. She really was. I was totally thrown that she was that sweet. She said, "Are you shopping today?" She says, "It looks like you are. What are you buying?" I said, "I'm not sure yet, but I'm definitely buying something because I was always crazy. I always wanted the best." I still do.
Yes, we know, Ma. We know from your Hermes scarf collection. We do know that we do know you're buying, Ma. I've shut off my American Express notifications due to your buying.
Yeah, you're very good to me. You are very, very, very good.
Okay, Ma.
I tell my friends that
Ma.
my son buys my toilet paper.
All right, Ma.
He buys everything.